Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to this week's Weekly Energy Boost. My name is Elisheva, and I am here this beautiful Monday morning with David, as we try to be every week on the Weekly Energy Boost. And this week we're talking about spiritual consequences. It's a very vague title for a very potentially powerful show. What we're doing this week, as we do every week, is aiming to provide our listeners with the most powerful and practical wisdom and tools to help you navigate the coming week. We do that by poring over Kabbalistic text and looking at the ancient writings and gleaning from them what speaks to us, what's worked for us, what's worked for the people we work with, and then, of course, sharing that with you. What's interesting about this particular week is that we are just in the very beginning. I think this is day 3 of the 3-week period that is known to be the most intense on the Kabbalistic calendar. And so we want to speak a little bit about that, but it completely ties in with this week's topic, because what ends up happening in these intense times of the year is that the impact of everything we do is magnified, is amplified. So when we talk about the ebbs and flows of the energy during the year, which is really what this podcast is based on, we often talk about this is a great month, do everything you can, plant lots of seeds, be extra active. And then sometimes we talk about pausing, letting things come to you, watching things take root and sprout and flower. And this is the time of year where the Kabbalists basically say, don't move. No, I'm kidding. Not don't move, but be as mindful of your thoughts, your words, and your actions as you can. There is no other time of the year to be more mindful, for 2 reasons, and they're really the same reason, but 2 sides of the coin. One is that there is this lack of buffer. Let's put it that way, that normally in the rest of the year, there is a delayed response from the universe. We throw out a boomerang, and there is time between when we throw it out and it comes back to us. And that's a universal protection system, I would call it, so that if you realize you aren't proud of what you did, you didn't show up as your best self, that's not what you want to put out there, you have time to replace that darkness with light. So because we lack that time, you throw out the boomerang now and it just comes right back and gets you in the gut. So that's one reason to be especially mindful of how we are thinking, speaking, and behaving. But on the other side of that coin is that because of that, the intensity of this time, the light that we put out there has much more impact. The spiritual work that we manage to do during this time is amplified that much more as well. So it really requires almost a slowing down of, you can imagine watching your life at half speed instead of the usual double speed that we go through life in. Slow it down to half speed and really think, where is my head? What am I saying? What am I doing? How am I spending my time? And then you will you have the at least best odds at having the most, not only what's the word, like safe experience in this time, but also the most productive, that's the way to make this time constructive versus destructive.
One of the concepts that we talk about often is when a person's experiencing darkness, and that is that absence of comfort and pleasure. It often, people think that there's an absence of the light of the Creator, right? When I'm going through a difficult time, it's because I don't have what I want. And the Kabbalistic thought around it is actually that the light of the Creator is revealed too greatly. So actually, when you have darkness, it's because there's too much light. And that's the way to look at it. So why am I feeling a disconnection from this light? If light represents fulfillment, and light represents clarity and certainty and pleasure and comfort, why am I not experiencing it given the abundance of it, because that's pretty much what you said. These 21 days, there's abundance of energy. But historically, we say that this is a time universally where it can be a difficult time or a dark time. And this is the reason, because all of life has to do with, do I have the vessel, the capacity to hold and receive? All the problems in our lives do not come from whether I get energy or I don't get energy. What we understand is the energy is always there. It's the vessel toggles between, vessel meaning our soul, us, we toggle between our capacity to receive or not. And the capacity to receive something always has to do with your consciousness, your thoughts, your words, and your actions on a daily basis. A lot of times people are playing the game of life by using their intellect. They're trying to outsmart the system. They're trying to get things to come to them. When what the Kabbalists say is you have to rise above this physical world and its rules and play by a different set of rules. You have to play 4D chess. You have to play on another level where essentially you're saying every minute I will act like the light of the Creator. I will maintain the consciousness of the light of the Creator as we learn it in our classes in Kabbalah 1 and whatnot, and we talk about it a lot on these podcasts. I will live by these lessons regardless of what's going on around me, regardless of what these tests are saying, what these challenges are saying that they want me to react to. I will live according to the spiritual laws. And what will happen is, as long as you can stay steadfast in that, you will come out with miracles. But when we react to what's happening in the physical world, we're already too late. We're already changing the vessel. We're shrinking the vessel. So this light has nowhere to go, and that's what people experience as darkness. Practically during these 21 days, I was thinking of what are the two things that we can all do, two practical things we can all do to build the vessel, to hold this great light. Because it can either be a difficult time for somebody, or it can be a miraculous time. That's up to us. And the two behaviors that we can use that are free to do all the time, that will expand your vessel to hold the light of these 21 days. Behavior number one is the power of, and I don't want it to sound cliche, but the power of the thank you, the power of the appreciation, saying thank you to yourself all the time about every single thing. As soon as you're annoyed, you say thank you. Thank you.
And
it sounds like a simple thing. We all laugh about it. We all like it when we hear it, but we don't do it after 10 minutes of hearing it. Okay, because it's too simple. That's the problem. It's way too simple. But I was driving Sunday with my wife, having a good day, and we're driving on Sunset, so it's kind of like a one-lane type thing, and this guy's going like 28 in a 35, and I'm starting to get annoyed.
You annoyed?
Yeah, I know.
Kabbalah teacher?
I know. It does. It also surprised me.
Well, that's proof of these 3 weeks. They just
doesn't
full
matter.
of opportunity.
They wipe out decades of knowledge and wisdom these 3 weeks. And I realized, wait a minute, I'm trying to play the game. I'm thinking, how am I going to pass this person? Honk. When's the lane opening up? What's going on to the right of me? And then there's something else that happens. Every time I try to change lanes to the right, like my wife's like got her phone up so I can't see the.
I know exactly.
You know what I'm
you're
talking about?
You can't really see.
You can't see. so you get upset again. But anyways, I realized all of this, why are you trying to play the game in this physical world? Just say thank you and go slow for eternity. And just be okay being incredibly uncomfortable. Just thank you. And it's those little moments, because we think it's all about the big chaotic things that happen in our lives. But every moment that annoys you, if we can say the words thank you out loud to yourself, you build the vessel. You actually expand your vessel to hold this great light. What makes a vessel shrink is when we're upset, when we don't appreciate, which means we don't have certainty in the light of the Creator. So the vessel gets smaller and smaller until it dies. All death is a cause of doubt. All doubt comes from a lack of appreciation. So thank you would be one powerful, practical tool we should use all year long, but especially in times of judgment and times where the light is so great and you need additional vessel to hold it.
I think it's important to let our listeners know that this period ends this year in 2022 on August 7th, and it it progresses. So we're in the first few days. David shared a pretty benign
August 7th at night.
At night, right? David just shared a benign example of how one can be triggered and not even realize the kinds of seeds we're planting. It can intensify toward the end. So that's something to be aware of, and hopefully we'll address as we go along. But one of the things about this week's unique energy, or what the Kabbalists are asking us to pay most attention to, is actually our words. And what I love about what David just shared is that he said to say it out loud. To say, even if you're just muttering it under your breath, don't mutter, say it graciously, thank you. What you're doing is you are releasing air freshener, spiritual air freshener, into the area around you. And I can tell you that one of the things that I think trips so many of us up is the fact that we aren't cognizant of the narration that's going on as we go about our daily lives. That we have that negative soundtrack that plays in our minds and sometimes even comes out of our mouths. And we've had so many episodes where we talk about the power of words. I think the emphasis this week, or the difference this week, is that we realize, as David said, in the small moments, right? Where, I don't know, you're having a conversation with a bunch of people and you say, yeah, I'll see you there. And you know in your mind, you're not going to go. You're not going to see them there. You're just trying to blow it off, get out of an uncomfortable situation. And what we unknowingly do when we say we're going to do something with no intention of doing it, or we say something that undermines or undercuts whatever's going on, even if we're the only ones who hear it. And to me, that's one of the biggest points to make today, is that it doesn't matter if nobody's around to hear it. Even if it's just in your head, it has impact. It's making a difference. And in our lives, we try to do good, we try to be positive, we try to make a difference, and we don't realize that as we look at the big things, right? I'm volunteering for this charity, and I'm helping out my friends and family, and I'm posting positive memes, uplifting videos on TikTok and Instagram. I'm trying to inspire people. And at the same time, we are cutting ourselves. I think about it as a balloon. You're trying to elevate, you're filling this balloon with air, you're hoping it's going to take you higher. And at the same time, you're letting air out constantly with these subtle, small, self-destructive behaviors. And so when we talk about in this time period that the impact of those things are going to be magnified, we want to pay special attention to the little ways in which we actually self-sabotage the effort that we're trying to make, right? I'll say it really quickly. I had a conversation with somebody last week, and we were talking about how they're in a particular work situation where they feel like the upper management or the people that they answer to are kind of undermining the success of her team. And how do they do that? With their comments, with their been there, done that, don't bother, that they're slowly, even though, and this is what was interesting for me to hear as a observer, is the success of this team is in their best interest. Their bottom line will be affected by the success of this marketing team. But at the same time, the upper management is undercutting and undermining and diminishing their power with their attitude and their energy and even their words and the way that they treat this team to be less successful. And, you can hear what I'm saying and be like, well, I would never do that. The point is we all do that. And it can be something as subtle as what David shared. He's on his way somewhere and he's annoyed and he's irritated. And by being annoyed and irritated, he's literally taking the vessel, the capacity to reveal light in that day, and shrinking it. So I think for all of us, we want to be more mindful of those small things that we do in the course of a day, in the course of a week. Maybe there's certain people that even bring it out in us. I don't know if you've ever noticed that you change the way you speak when you're around different people. And sometimes it means, you want to be a better person. It might be in a positive way. You're around somebody that makes you want to be a better person. So you say things and you commit to things and you talk about things that you don't really mean simply because you want to look good or you want to measure up or you want to be like everybody else. And in the end, it's actually doing the opposite of what you want it to do.
Alicia was going more into the micro of these 3 weeks, specifically about this week, which is being compounded by an additional energy that has to do around our vows and our intentions and our words. And to layer upon the practical things that we can do this week, we have to be very careful about the words that we use during this time, especially because words are also a vessel. And if you say certain things that you don't intend on fulfilling, positive things that you don't intend on fulfilling, you create an empty vessel that the light of the Creator cannot fill, because the light would come in upon your doing the action. But if you don't do the action, you have an empty vessel, which it says that the negative side then takes over. So a lot of the comments that we make, the promises that we make, the things that we just say off the cuff, these all contribute to the damages that occur around us. So being extra careful during these 3 weeks as well about those words is especially important. And just to make a comment about comments, because we all have comments, especially in this day and age, and commenting actually 99% of the time creates a lot of negativity. Think about when a comment that you made actually improved the quality of your life or somebody else's. It happens most with people that you're close to. It happens a lot in marriage. It happens a lot with children. It happens a lot with relationships that you're familiar with. You make a comment, something they should do, something they shouldn't do. Why did they do something? What you think of something. Nobody really cares, number one, what your comment is. That's the starting point. Most times people are not asking for your comment. But a lot of times these comments come from a place of lack, from a place that we're uncomfortable. And what the comment does is it short circuits us for a moment so we feel numb. We don't have to feel that pain. But there's a lot of damage made. So we have to really be careful, because we actually have 10 weeks. Something else that's interesting is we have what's called three high energy weeks, which can be positive or negative. But then we also have 7 weeks after that lead to what we call Rosh Hashanah, which is not what people often think is an exclusive Jewish thing. Rosh Hashanah is the first day of Libra, which is the day that every soul in this world receives a new infusion of light. So our destiny is being created in a big way on that day. Actually, it's 48 hours, the first 2 days of Libra, which I think this year falls somewhere mid-September.
End of September.
End of September.
I think it's the 26th.
Okay. And so it says we have exactly 10 weeks because there's 10 dimensions that build a full vessel. So really the preparation for what our new destiny will look like for the next years during these 10 weeks. And if you know deeper Kabbalah, which sometimes we like to sprinkle in, when you have 10 dimensions that build a complete vessel, the first 3 of those 10 dimensions are always the seed level and the highest light. And it's really the embryonic state. It's like the embryo with the brain state. So we have to be very delicate at these 3 weeks. And then the following 7 weeks, as we get closer to Rosh Hashanah, there's other kinds of preparation that are in order. But one of the things that all the Kabbalists say to prepare our soul, and where the lowest hanging fruit of cleansing is around our words, and being careful with what comes out. And if you don't know what to say, don't say anything. And if you feel compelled to say something, also don't say anything.
So 2 things, I thought of 2 things while you were talking. One is those of us, if you're like me, you mean well. I mean well. I mean, of course, I have my moments of cynicism and sarcasm, but I would like to say 95% of my day, I genuinely mean well and intend well. And the other 5%, I'm just sleeping. No, I'm just kidding. So, no, this is a genuine, I'm actually asking you a serious question. Sometimes I say things, and in the moment I mean them, right? I do want to be there. I do want to show up. I do want to help. I do think it's a great idea. But for whatever reason, I end up not being able to be there, not showing up, not being able to help.
Yeah.
Not for a bad reason. My point is, my intention is, I do want to help you. You're moving on Sunday. I'll come over and help you pack. But then X, Y, and Z happens, and I just can't make it.
Yeah.
What happens? What are the? I'm sorry to be cliche, but not consequences. But what happens to the energy that I put out there? Because I said I'm going to be there. Yeah. I created that vessel. The footsteps are already there, but I'm not going to walk through them.
Right. Well, I guess one of the ways to define it is, what's the difference if I tell you I will be there for you versus I might be there for you? There's two different energies, right? You don't feel as good about yourself when you say I might be there. Why don't you feel as good? In fact, your friend doesn't feel as good either, because your friend's like, commit to me. I need to know that you care. So the reason why you feel good saying I will be there versus I might be there is because you draw more energy with I will be there. You're borrowing this vessel, and that's why it feels better. You have to pay for that. So if you don't show up for whatever reason, you still borrowed this money, still borrowed this energy, and it needs to be paid back. This is why the practice of the Kabbalists were, knowing that unforeseen circumstances will always come, they tried not to borrow the energy at all. And they would always say, I will do my best, or I intend to, but it may not happen. It's not as fun. It's not as exciting to be that kind of a person that talks like that, but it's the most honest and truthful. It's like the kind of people I know who never like to operate with debt. They'll want to pay cash for everything because they never want to be beholden to be, what's wrong with debt? Well, the only thing wrong with debt is if you take that money and then you don't follow through with what you want to do with it. Now you're in debt. But most people take debt because they want to make more from their money. So the assumption is, the people who never go into debt, is that they're not sure what's going to happen if they take money, right? A lot of people we see in time today, they borrowed money to put it in this investment or that investment, and now investment disappeared, and now what do? Right? Everyone's got a margin call. So there is a spiritual margin call, essentially, that we all have when we borrow too much energy. So maybe we need to stop overcommitting and overpromising in order to balance our spiritual books.
Okay, thank you. I needed that. The other thing I need to hear you talk about is the silence thing. I have trouble with silence. Confessions of a true Kabbalah teacher.
You mean you being silent?
Yes. I have trouble not answering, not responding. It's very, and I'm doing it. I'm working on it. I'm practicing it. For those of, I don't know if any of my friends are listening, but now they're going to be like, oh, that's why she's been so quiet lately. I'm really trying not to say something if I'm not going to uplift, strength, right? If it's not really going to be constructive, I'm trying to keep my mouth shut. However, that's not always received well. Is there something I'm not doing, or maybe our listeners can also be doing, when they choose the quiet route, not to commit, not to promise, not to feel good, right? Like you were talking about, saying you're going to be there feels good because you have the check in your hand. What can we do internally in those moments of silence, or in the moments of not looking good or not feeling good, so that it contributes to the ultimate, right, to our goal of growing our vessel and having that connection with the light?
I think now what's happening is, as we're trying to be more conscious of what to say or not say, we almost find that we're at a loss for what to say. And like the whole infrastructure falls apart of what we've always done. Mm-hmm. So now this is where people start asking questions like, so what do I do if this happens and that happens? And if that happens, should I say this or not, or what? And the reason why we start asking questions like that is because we've been so programmed to be robotic and react to our lack that as soon as somebody tells us not to do that, we have no clue what to do. This is kind of where a question like that comes from. I know you're asking it in a different way. You're asking it because you know that's what people are thinking to ask. So we have to realize that what we do in Kabbalah is we don't just demolish your current operating system and then tell you, here are the 20 things to do and, figure out how to do them. There's two operating systems. There's one that we come to the world with, which is a reactive one. It's the default one. It's the animalistic one. It's the one that just constantly responds from fear and lack. And everyone in the world has it. But through the proper transformation that we learn on the path of Kabbalah, you receive a second nature, a second operating system. That second operating system also is a channel in its own way. So what does a person do in the moments of silence? I don't know, but I know that when you make that transformation, that second operating system begins to communicate for you, through you, and you start to become a channel, because all the great athletes in this world, or performers or musicians or talented beings, what makes them so great is that they don't think about their craft. It flows through them. You've seen the way an artist, you ever seen like these street artists that like, they do these caricatures of you? It's like, it's not a technique. Like, okay, you draw lines this way. They just draw it. They channel it through them. Pianist, it's not thinking about every keys hitting or she's hitting. It's coming through. It's flowing through.
It's beautiful to watch.
And we know in classes that if we think about what we want to say, even if the words sound great, the energy's flat and people are not inspired and people get in their own head. So really, everything's about being a channel. So what I would say is, don't try to micromanage or control what I'm going to do now when I let go of my negative behavior. But instead, embrace and know that there will be a second nature that we all have waiting for us that will take over, that will help us be a channel. And a lot of it's trial and error. You try this, you try that, you feel it, you see what's going on, you see what energy comes through, right? It's not like just black and white.
Well, one of the questions I think I get most, and it would be interesting to hear your take on it, in this time period and in any of the time periods on the calendar where the Kabbalists say, think before you jump. Meaning this is a time to work inward and not necessarily chase things in the physical reality. What if you have to talk? What if you've been planning to talk to somebody? Actually, it happened to someone asked me not long ago that they're working on making their spouse an ex, and they need to do X, Y, and Z as a result. They need to have this conversation. And I said, listen, you waited 26 years to have this conversation. You can wait another 3 weeks, right? And what's interesting, what I thought about is that reactive operating system you were talking about, that's where the urgency, I got to answer now, I got to put in my 2 cents. If I don't say something now, I'm going to lose this opportunity. It's so important in this time to shut down that broadcast. It's like, because of that quick turnaround boomerang that happens during this time, it's the more we do impulsively and reactively, the more collateral damage there is. Therefore, if there is anything that you've been working on or planning on or deciding to manifest right now in this, you want to have that conversation now, you want to launch that thing right now, the best advice David or I or any of us could give is wait it out. Is the discomfort you experience in not doing it right now will result in compounding the success or the effectiveness of whatever you're going to try and do after these 3 weeks are over. So that's probably the best assignment you can have this week, aside from that reflecting, that introspection, that checking in with yourself, watching the way that you let the energy dissipate, escape the balloon, basically. Of course, what David said, being as conscious about your thoughts, your words, and your actions, and making sure in terms of, this week especially is focusing on our words, making sure that when we are speaking, we're really coming from that place of channeling. It's not me. It's not my agenda I'm pushing forward. It's just simply something that came to me or needs to be said. And the truth is, if it doesn't need to be said now, better not to say it at all. I want to end this week's episode, the last minute, with something that I came across. I think it was written originally in 2016, written by our teacher, Karen Berg. And in that particular year, the timing of this week and the 3 weeks was identical. So it's like 3 paragraphs. I'm going to read it, and then we're going to say, have a fabulous week. This week, we enter into a 21-day period the Kabbalists call Ben HaMetzarim, which is often considered to be 3 of the most negative, and if you're listening to the podcast, I'm putting air quotes around the word negative, weeks of the year. I put the word negative in quotes for a reason, because Rav Berg would often teach that this time has the potential to be one of the most positive. This is the duality of the material world that is connected to the tree of knowledge, good and evil. Even the word evil, spelled backwards, becomes the word live. To the degree that there is darkness, we are given an opportunity to reveal that degree of light. So the question becomes, how can we do that? What can we do this coming 7 days in particular to begin the process of making these weeks the most positive of our year instead of the most negative as they are inclined to be? For the answers, we look to the Zohar. The portion of this week, Matot, concerns itself mostly with the idea of vows and the power of speech. The Kabbalists teach that God granted all of us the power to create angels with our words. For every negative word that we say, an angel is created whose purpose is to initiate darkness. With every positive word we say, an angel is created to radiate light. Of course, it's not the words themselves, as all words have the potential to be either negative or positive. What matters is how and why we use them, to build or to destroy. The Rav would always say it takes one moment to destroy what it takes years to build. We might use our words to gossip about a longtime friend, to admonish someone harshly, or even to use our words to put ourselves down or beat ourselves up. I'm so stupid. Why did I do that? On the other hand, we can use our words to brighten someone's day or to bear witness to someone's pain with a simple I understand, or simply tell someone that they matter. In this way, we can begin to see that for the angels, every word is a vow, as angels have no free will of their own, and so they are vowed to carry forth the energy with which our words are spoken. In this, the first week of Ben HaMetzarim, let us use our words to fill the world with light. Over the course of the next 7 days, let us speak words of kindness to others and to ourselves. Let us utter words that build, words of wisdom, peace, and love, and by doing so fill the world with positive angels that can elevate us on their wings. I invite you to share this possibility with others so that we may multiply our efforts by thousands and thousands, through which we can alter the energy that exists in the world today, and perhaps by the end of Ben HaMetzarim, the world will look that much better for it. This week, let words that build be your true north. Weekly Energy Boost is available on all podcast platforms, YouTube, Instagram. You can follow us there to see more inspiration, quotes, and things we think our listeners will find valuable. We would love to hear more from you by you rating, reviewing, and commenting on everything that we share. And of course, if you have any questions for us, you can reach us at energyboost@kabbalah.com. You can visit our website, weeklyenergyboost.com, to see what's going on, what we think is important for our listeners to know about. And we'll see you next week on the Weekly Energy Boost.